First of all, on the question of scope of governance, and this is to say, in relation to success in philanthropy and fundraising, legal structure is one issue, but there's a range of other issues that also impact upon this, and the broader question of whether operating at arm's length is beneficial or not. I've put some of them up on this slide. The ownership arrangements for the building and the collection. Normally, almost overwhelmingly, if it's a local government gallery, that's who's going to own the asset and most likely own the collection as well, but not universally. Ownership of the building in the long term can become more of an issue if you are launching a major capital fundraising appeal, and donors have this perception that they don't want to give to government. Is there a question then about who does own this building, whether that's actually a barrier to raise from the private sector? It usually is. Employment of the staff. Most importantly, for purposes of this discussion, fundraising structures and arrangements, not just corporate structure, but how well is fundraising resourced? How skilled are you or your team to pitch the case for fundraising and to do the background research and cultivation that's necessary? The presence of supporter groups. Often these are themselves separate corporate entities. Sometimes they're brought in-house as part of the gallery's programs. The existence of any commercial activity and how that is operated, whether in-house or not, and planning issues as well. So governance covers a whole range of things. It's within which sits the choice of legal structure. Some years ago, we were engaged by the National Museum of Australia in Canberra to do a study looking at the question of whether it's better in fundraising terms to set up a foundation sitting to the side of your board, bearing in mind they have a board and some of you won't have, which had the better track record. Galleries that have a foundation or galleries that didn't, where the board was core to fundraising. And we undertook interviews and looked at the arrangements at a number of galleries, mostly medium and larger scale galleries, including state galleries around Australia, and found that there was no compelling evidence that one or other was better, because it was a range of other factors that actually seemed to determine success. A lot of it was about the board's own drive and energy, the degree of active leadership from the gallery director and others in senior positions, if the gallery was large enough to have other positions. And there wasn't any correlation between how long they'd been in the fundraising game or not in terms of success in these terms. So it certainly raises the question for me about the degree to which one can rely entirely on structural matters to guarantee success. There are also a range of other ingredients for success, which are worth bearing in mind. I'll just try and get us onto the next slide if I can, because my screen is frozen. So the other ingredients for success include having great product, presenting and by which I mean the collection, the exhibitions, the public programs that you run, the overall visitor experience. That's a prerequisite for fundraising success, obviously. Then there's the presenting a compelling case, a well-argued case, spelling out the benefits. If it was a business partner or corporate partner, it would be benefits to their business. If it was a foundation, it would be the benefits that they're trying to achieve in the community, socially, culturally, educationally. The professional support that you're able to provide for all the background work that underpins fundraising. Just jumping down a couple of points, long-term commitment. This is, the longer you are in this, the more chance you've got of not just securing, but retaining donors, and then the game becomes easier. Range of other factors also to consider. I won't read through all of these because they're pretty self-explanatory, but probably just worth looking at the one at the bottom. It is a competitive field, just like in corporate sponsorship. You know that you're up against others who are pitching to the same sponsors that you may be pitching to. So it is the case with philanthropy. So one can't expect to succeed all the time. The final point I'd like to make before handing over to Paul to talk about some of the legal dimensions is just as legal structure is not the whole story in terms of governance issues that affect fundraising and philanthropy. Equally, the question, would we be better off at arm's length or in-house? And ultimately, if you are a local government gallery, its council will determine whether they're happy for you not to be in-house. But there are other pros and cons to be considered in the question of being an arm's length operation. I've listed some of these down the left and right hand side of this table. Philanthropy is one, but access to a strong board of management with skills, autonomy and speed of decision making, having customized financial and administrative processes. Sometimes council processes can be quite frustrating because they seem to be inflexible from a gallery's perspective or a performing arts centre's perspective. So there's a range of other considerations, but there's also some disadvantages to going to arm's length. And the first one is really significant. If you're sitting within local government, you're highly unlikely to experience major cash flow problems. That's not typical of a government environment. If you are an incorporated association or a company limited by guarantee, you're far more vulnerable to those peaks and troughs in terms of cash flow. And I've listed some of the other disadvantages of being arm's length on that slide also. So all of that is to really put the next part of this discussion into a context.